Hey, Tom. I think we're ready. Oh, you already started? Sometimes I'll do that.
Oh,
I'm
no.
like, oh, God, what was I doing? Taking
All
it
those terrible jokes we were just saying, yeah.
I can't tell what these. Oh, see, this
He's
is
got his
not-
AirPods in.
Okay. Well, welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. We've got Corbin Cabrera from here from NDM. And we've got Lunch and Learns the second and fourth Wednesday of the month in this space every month. So just check out our events calendar for upcoming events. And we also have a networking event the third Wednesday of every month here as well. So I'll pass it on.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. All right, so I've got cookies in the back in case anyone didn't hear that already. They're free. Feel free to take as many you want. I bought way too many. So like she said, I'm Corbin Cabrera. I'm a technical architect here with NDM Technologies. We're a trusted IT and security firm that have been around for 25 years. Just celebrated our 25th anniversary here on July 4th, actually. I think we're the longest lasting tech company here in Spokane. Don't fact check me on that because I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. So today I'm going to talk about what is zero trust, what that means exactly, and how it relates to cybersecurity. So here's kind of my topics I'm going to hit, and this will be all kind of like conversation-based. Feel free to interrupt me at any time. If you have a question, a comment, heckling if you need to, anything, just feel free to speak up. So I'll answer the question, what is zero trust first? I'll talk about kind of the current state of cybersecurity and how it is affecting small businesses and startups alike. And then I'll talk about establishing trust using multi-factor authentication. And then I'll talk a bit about wireless security and then some security training at the end. Okay. So a little bit about me. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And there's a story here that kind of really relates to cybersecurity, which is that about 8 years ago, I was working for Boeing down there at the Mesa Apache plant. And I went to go buy a house, and the real estate agent was giving me all this paperwork about termite barriers. Anybody from Phoenix familiar with this? Termites is a big deal down there, right? And you have to sign tons of paperwork for your termite barrier. It's actually, your mortgage is contingent upon it, and you have to get it renewed every 5 years. It's a big deal. And I, coming from Spokane, I was raised here, I went to Meade High School. I didn't know nothing about termites, so this was all brand new to me. And so the real estate agent said something to me that really changed my perspective on termites forever while I lived there. And he said that there are two types of houses in Arizona. One type that have termites, and the other type is the one that are going to get termites, okay? So when I heard that, that completely changed how I thought about this whole issue. It wasn't about if my house was gonna get termites, it became when it's gonna get termites. So how that relates to cybersecurity is it's the same. I can confidently say that there are two types of companies. There are the type that have been hacked, and then there's the type that are going to get hacked. We have to change the conversation from if my company is going to get hacked to when and what I'm going to do about it. We no longer can be doing these responsive kind of quick fixes with cybersecurity. Everything should be much more defensive, proactive, and really changing the way we think. So how that relates to zero trust is that there's really not a great way to trust the users in your organization, your current security policies, everything. So I hope the termite thing, that is the cutest picture of a termite. If you Google termites on Google Images, you get terrible photos. So it was the cutest one I could find. Okay, so the current state of ransomware among small businesses. In the last 12 months, about 22% of organizations had ceased business operations immediately because of ransomware. And so anyone who's not familiar with ransomware, this is where files get encrypted, and then the hacker says, here's the key to get your files back. You have to pay me Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an untraceable currency. And so it's really prevalent right now. 22% ceased business, 81% experienced some sort of cyber attack. 66% have suffered a data breach. Data breach meaning if your company holds any kind of private sensitive information, whether that's credit card numbers, social security numbers, even just names and logins, a data breach is when that stuff goes out to hackers, the public, anyone. And then 35% were victims of ransomware specifically.
You're saying that 35% of small and medium businesses in America were
Yeah, yes. And the worst part about this slide is that this was taken by Malwarebytes in 2017. Okay, so this is actually an older data set. It's much more prevalent now. Ransomware is really common. I know some of you might be business owners here in Spokane, or you're part of a bigger organization here, or part of a smaller business, maybe a startup, and you think Spokane's a small town and it's, we're not a hot target for these kinds of things. But that's not true. Does anyone recognize this Columbia Surgical Specialists letterhead? I got this letter in the mail just a few months ago because I went to them they have an ENT branch as well. This is here in Spokane, Washington. They sent out this letter to all their customers, everyone in their database. I had just gone for like a consultation. I was in their database. They had all my private information, my medical records, everything. And what happened is one morning, the doctor showed up and they went to go do surgery on a patient. And this was some life-saving surgery that they had to do. They went to the patient files that they needed to do the surgery, and they were encrypted. So this is ransomware. And the hacker told them, hey, pay Bitcoin and we'll give you the key and you can unlock your files. So a lot of companies are running into this and they have to make a choice. We kind of hear a lot about like don't negotiate with terrorists and things like that. But in this case, Columbia Surgical Specialists chose to, this little pen, not going to work for me. They chose to pay the $14,649.09 in Bitcoin. They did this through one of their IT providers, their security provider, because they had minutes on the line here to access those patient files. They needed it immediately. This was life or death we were talking about. So I think personally they made the right decision. They go into detail about why they had to do this, and this is happening all over the place. This was what was that last one? March 7th of 2019 when this happened. Okay, this was this year, a few months ago, here in Spokane. So it really is a concern. I'm not going to dive too deep into all these scary stats and things like that because I think you guys get it. What I want to talk about now is how to establish trust. Now that I've kind of explained zero trust and what it kind of means, right? Because now you're probably wondering, well, if there's zero trust, then how do we establish trust? So the old ways we used to do it is we would put a perimeter. Really simple stuff. Put up a fence, right? People can't go out. People can't go in. Is that? Yeah, is that for us? You build a perimeter, firewalls, user access privilege, whatever it takes to just keep people in, people out, right? So you build it around your endpoints, your users, your apps, your servers. But that's not how businesses work today. They just don't work that way. Now we do things like hybrid cloud deployments, remote employees working at different locations, cloud applications, personal devices and mobile devices. So there's a term called BYOD, which is bring your own device. How many people are using Outlook or Dropbox or some sort of file share to interact with their work stuff while they're on the go? Probably all of us, right? So that's why today's perimeter, we can't use these old ways of just putting up a fence to keep malicious software out. We have to do things a little bit different. So again, kind of the old way of establishing trust was through username and password, right? You know your username and you know your password, but all that stuff is out there. Username and passwords are getting released in data breaches almost every week now. And it's just not a way to validate trust. Just because you added an @ symbol at the end of your password doesn't make it any more secure. On top of your passwords already being out there in these data breaches, there's advanced sophisticated software that's really smart at guessing your passwords. So that's why we want to talk about multi-factor authentication. So what that is really, if you're not familiar with this, is you're adding another factor to that something that you know in your head, like a username and password, and you're going to do something else to bring multi-factors to authenticate who you are in your environment. So something you know, such as a password, and then something you have, such as a physical device, right? So you might be wondering who uses multi-factor today. Well, we all do. If you have a bank card and you have a PIN, that's multi-factor, okay? You go to buy something, If you don't have the card with you, but you got your PIN in your head, it doesn't do you any good. And if you got your card, or someone else has your card, but they don't have your PIN, they can't make that purchase. This is multi-factor authentication. So the reason we haven't been using this too much is because in the past it's been really difficult to deploy. You can see here, I don't even know what any of this is. This is all smart people stuff, I don't know. And then it's been difficult to use. Back when I worked for Boeing, I had one of these guys here. It looked like a calculator. My son would take it all the time and play with it, and he would lose it. The battery died once. They had to send me a new battery. It had to be through certified mail, and it was difficult. This one down here, this is a text message. You guys probably recognize this. You probably do this with your bank, maybe Facebook. I think LinkedIn does it too. They'll text you a code, and then you put the code in the little box, right? This is really insecure. Hackers have found a way to spoof phones. Some of you are nodding your head yes, because you already know this. They can take your SIM card. They can actually order a new SIM card just with very little information and intercept that text message. So please, right now, if you're doing this with your bank, or if you're doing this with any of your personal accounts right now, and you're doing it more than once a month, download an authenticator app. It's much more secure. Duo in particular, that's our kind of, we've chosen them as the best of breed. They just got acquired by Cisco. They do a lot of good stuff there where they check the DNA of your phone, right? So they'll check your firmware, your model number, a whole bunch of other stats to make sure that when they send a push to that phone, that it is Corbin's phone, right? So as far as in your personal lives, make sure you're using two-factor authentication for things like your bank, even your email, anything that's you want secured, and don't use the text message form. So yeah, now we have a lot more simple and affordable solutions for this, both in personal lives and at your business. So if there's one takeaway from this presentation, it's are really simple and affordable solutions to implement at your business. It doesn't matter if you're just one person at a startup and you're working out of your kitchen and all you have is your phone. There's solutions for that. Or if there's the 50,000 Fortune 500 company that needs these solutions, these scale up. It's the same exact solution, just a different price point, right? Same technology, same backing, everything. That's something we specialize at NDM, is to make sure that our products are not only best of breed, but also scale with businesses. So did anyone join today's Wi-Fi? I just want to do a quick check on this. I've done this before where I'll put a hotspot up at a mall. All right, looks like I got one person. I won't name names, but it's an iPhone user. Typical. Okay. So with the hotspots, these are pretty insecure, right? If you check right now, you'll see that I've spoofed a startup Spokane free Wi-Fi. It's right there along with the actual approved Wi-Fis. Someone very easily could walk in here, as someone did, and join the Wi-Fi, right? And who knows what I could do with that. There used to be an app on Android where if someone logged into my hotspot and then logged into their Facebook, I could actually take the session token, duplicate it, put it into a browser, and be logged into their Facebook. It wouldn't give me their password or anything like that, but that was something that was available on the Android market. This was like 5 years ago, but I kind of want to talk about wireless security and how insecure it kind of really is right now, and how a lot of hackers are targeting public places such as hotels, airports, restaurants, coffee shops, things like that. We partner with a vendor called WatchGuard, and they have a really interesting movement going on right now. You can go to this website and sign their petition. Basically what they're asking for is they're asking for a new industry standard that'll include this icon on certain Wi-Fi signals at like places like airports, hotels, things like that. And that way, the industry will adopt a accreditation basically for these wireless security networks, so that I couldn't do what I just did today and copy someone's AP. I used to install access points like all over America for customers and go above the drop ceilings. And one of the things they'll do is they will actually install a rogue access point, a hardware device, to capture people on the wireless network. And I ran into a few of those. I don't know if they were all malicious, but I would go in these drop ceilings and there would be a random access point, like off-brand, just sitting there powered up, plugged into the network. This is a real thing that they do. People will go and make the effort if it's profitable. So WatchGuard has that going on. They also point out a lot of these insecurities that Wi-Fi might have. So I wanted to talk a bit about kind of like the personal use of Wi-Fi. I know it's kind of crazy with going to airports and knowing which one is secure, which one isn't. But even as a business owner, if you use Wi-Fi for your business productivity, you're leaving a lot of vulnerability there. Just putting up the password is not good enough a lot of times. A lot of these here kind of cover like the rogue access point, what I was talking about. Ad hoc net, let's see. Evil twin is basically what I have there on my hotspot right now. Yeah, there's a lot of vulnerabilities right now. And again, if you're using Wi-Fi for your business, whether it's a startup or a bigger business, you should really reconsider kind of what's going into the security there. We've advanced so quickly with technology, and we've rushed to market with all these productivity apps, these things like cloud-based applications and stuff like that, where it's great and it's helpful, especially for the startup market, where you can act just like a big Fortune 500 company just from your phone. But what we forgot was the security aspects behind a lot of these things. So we're trying to play catch up there, and it's just something, again, that really should be reconsidered with everyone. So that covers wireless security. The next thing I want to talk about, this was a study done by KnowBe4. It's another company we work with. They do security training. So it doesn't matter what solution you have in your company, how advanced of a solution you have for your cybersecurity, whether it's endpoint protection, firewalls, SIM solutions, all these really expensive high-end devices. At the end of the day, it's about the users and what they're doing, right? So here's a quick little survey on some of the top clicked social media subjects from phish emails. And a phish email, I'm sure you all know, is when someone tries to mimic another company and it's not really that company, right? So LinkedIn's a really popular one. Join my network, profile views, add me. New voice message, I don't know who's leaving voicemail, I don't know, yeah. Password was successfully reset, don't ever click on those. Facebook password reset, I'm sure you've seen all of these. Your friend tagged a photo of you. Nothing gets my heart racing faster than when I see that in my inbox. I'm like, what? No. So that is another one. They play to your emotions. They really do. And they're getting more and more sophisticated about it. I mean, speaking of playing to your emotions, that next one, free pizza, that is definitely playing to my emotions. I would 100% click on this. Yeah, they just did a big one where it was the 55th anniversary and Pizza Hut was doing free pizza for everyone. Were you raising your hand? No, sorry. So that's one that got hit a lot, and a lot of people got ransomware, malware, all sorts of stuff from that one. So email best practices. Again, this is KnowBe4, kind of suggests these things. You know, don't open attachments. They say .text files are typically pretty safe, but down here they talk about the double extended scam. That's where they'll send an attachment that says safe.txt.exe, so that it's an executable. You can't click that. You can't trust anything. I mean, really, that's zero trust is this right here. Don't click embedded links. You know, you can hover over a link or an image or anything like that. It'll tell you the full qualified URL where it's going to take you. If it looks malicious, don't click it. Don't respond to spam. Don't click unsubscribe. Every spam emailer list has unsubscribe at the very bottom of the email. This was actually a law that Obama passed because it was like the anti-spam law. But now, of course, hackers are abusing it by including unsubscribe lists or links, and they're malicious. So yeah, some other common stuff here. Just always report suspicious emails to your IT help desk. If you don't have an IT help desk, reach out to a security advisor such as NDM or anyone else who can start tracking the behavior of why your accounts are being targeted, why you're receiving these messages. I can assure you it's not just a coincidence. Typically there's waves of certain attention that hackers will give in certain industries, certain business sizes, all that sort of thing. So yeah, here at NDM, we believe in kind of the layered security approach. We have a bunch of vendors we work with and solutions available for us. I just built this quick little cheat sheet for some of the things we work on and work with, including services. So we are fully managed. We do managed services, which is your IT help desk. We also are a managed security service firm, so we have a whole floor of security analysts, and they work 24/7, monitoring networks, checking for security incidents. And then, yeah, we again believe in the layered approach. You shouldn't have just one single solution. I've got a lot of people who have just one WatchGuard firewall, and again, that kind of goes back to that older thought of building a perimeter. And the perimeter is just not good enough anymore. Our businesses are, everything's coming in, everything's going out. You really have to change the way you're thinking about it. So I hope that explains Zero Trust, and I hope I gave you kind of a good overview of NDM and kind of what we have to offer, as well as some take-home value for you to think about security and how to approach it best. So yeah, I wanted to keep it brief. So I wanted to do a no dumb questions Q&A. And really, the cybersecurity is pretty complicated, so feel free to ask anything. Go ahead.
I am a fairly unsophisticated but long-term email user.
Yeah.
I haven't taken the time, because I'm old and feeble-minded, to learn all the ins and outs.
Exactly, yeah, sure.
And mostly do email through Hotmail.
Okay.
And it seems that Google is getting worse and worse. I used to get up to a dozen or so spams a day, and I could block them if you believed what they would say. They let me pretend to block them, but I don't think they did, because the more I blocked them, the more and more they would come back. Now
Yeah.
I'm getting 50 to 100 spams a day, mostly porno, a lot of them ED and roofing and insurance and things like that, and I'm not allowed to block them at all. The best I can do is delete them.
This is through Hotmail? This is your Hotmail address?
Hotmail, yeah.
So Hotmail is a little outdated. That's just really what it is. Google has a pretty advanced spam filter. You'll see a lot of those get removed if you move over to Google. I'm assuming this is your personal email.
But everyone's got my Hotmail. Do a tremendous amount of work to disseminate a new address.
Yeah.
The trouble is, all bad people have my Hotmail address too.
Yeah.
So I don't quite know what to.
Sometimes, you know, when it gets that bad, so I can show you guys this really quick tool you might want to use at home. So has anyone ever seen this website before? It's not showing. That's weird.
I've been trying DuckDuckGo, and it doesn't seem to make much difference.
Let's see here. So there's a website that does cross-reference with some of the biggest hack databases that have come out recently. I don't know if I can get it to show. Of course. Let's see here. I work in IT. This should be really simple. But basically, there is a website out there that will cross-reference all the biggest hacks that have been out there. It's called haveibeenpwned.com. And you throw your email in there. Yeah, it's a silly hacker speak name. And you throw haveibeenpwned.com. PWNED. So I think if you search in have I been, it'll show up. Oh. And you throw your email in there, and it'll actually cross-reference all the databases and tell you which ones that you've been included in. Let me see if I start the presentation up again, if it works. Yeah, it just doesn't like it. That's fine. So I'll just scan through all these. But basically, That website can tell you if your email has been compromised, included in one of these data breaches, and I'll be honest, it has been. If you've had an email for longer than a year, you've been in one of these Equifax hacks, these target hacks, one of any of these internet hacks for the websites where you sign up to be on a forum or anything like that. So it's not about if my information is going to get out there regarding your credentials. It's nobody's cared enough to pick it up and do something malicious with it yet. That's really what it is. Your email, your password, it's all out there. Nobody has just cared enough to pick it up. Someone will eventually, so that's why they tell you to change your password, but even that's outdated. With the sophisticated algorithms they have now to guess passwords, they can guess the password just with the username. So, any other questions?
With the rogue access point, so you were physically up in the roof
Yes.
and you saw these rogue access points. What do they display as? Do they display as the same network?
They'll typically either just spoof whatever's alongside it, because when you're walking around, you can check on your phone and see what access points are projecting. You can find out information about it. You can get signal strength. You can get, if you connect to it, you can get a ton more information. So yeah, I used to be up in drop ceilings and I would see these access points, and we didn't install them. I wasn't involved with security at that time, so I really couldn't do like an incident response or something, which would be appropriate to do. But really, it shows you how much effort they're really willing to go. So again, we have a pretty broad attack surface, and it's kind of throwing darts right now. So what you want to do for not only your personal lives, but also your business life, is you want to reduce that attack surface so that you are less likely to be the next victim. Any other, yeah?
So employees, what is a good line to draw in the sand when you give them a device versus them using their home device, or what is the way to manage what would be obvious a lack of security on their devices?
So when you provide equipment to your employees,
Lockdown, that's just.
yeah. So there's a multitude of solutions, right? You always want to start with endpoint protection, and then, because that's the next generation antivirus. The old version of antivirus was called signature-based antivirus. And what that does is it's constantly scanning all the files in your network. You've all done antivirus scans. And what it's doing is it's looking at the big database of viruses that we've collected over the years, and it's saying, okay, does it match that one? No? Okay, moving on. That's completely outdated. The software now is way more smarter than that. So we have to switch to behavior-based, right? So if a file shows up on a computer and it doesn't cross that signature-based check with the antivirus, but then it starts encrypting files that are on the network, or if it starts accessing, specifically searching and querying for credit card numbers and things like that, that is a behavior that we should be concerned with and should be identified and locked down immediately before it does something malicious. And then a lot of the times we have false positives. So maybe that was just one of the coders was developing a credit card optimization application, right? That's the other problem. Security has this thin line where you can't go too hard and then lock everyone out and then no one can do anything, and it impacts business. That's a lot of the times, again, why people don't adopt some of these solutions, is because it interferes with business productivity. Again, Duo, multi-factor authentication, that's probably been my biggest pushback for some of my MSP clients, is that they don't like that they have to have their phone by them and then push the little OK thing when they're trying to log into their computer. But I can guarantee almost every MSP customer I've had who has kept with it past the first month, they no longer even recognize it anymore. It's just part of their process. That first month is a lot of groans and a lot of emails that I got to go through, but after that month, it just becomes part of the process and nobody thinks about it anymore. It's just how you log into that computer. So, the companies that are diligent and commit to these kinds of solutions, that's the way to go. You had a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, I think one of the critical aspects for any organization is policy. It can be hard to get these adopted. I was wondering if when you go into consult with an organization, do you have a series of templates of policies that you recommend?
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's up to them to implement. But
Yep.
do you work to develop policies for them as well?
Absolutely. So blank slate, when I walk into a company and they want me to start managing their network and their IT services, and then of course manage security, I usually don't have day one solutions. And that's because, yeah, I could sell you guys these high-end appliances and these giant solutions that are going to take months to implement, that you're going to have to buy servers for, that you're going to have to buy a rack and cooling and all this stuff. But I don't want to do that because that's not necessary. It all depends on how your environment is built, how the users in the environment are using it, who has access to sensitive data. It's just, everyone has to be custom fit. There is not one solution for everyone, right? I do talk about two-factor being a great thing for everyone to have for user authentication because it is a blanket security policy that everyone should take. But I just was at they were a manufacturing company, and the guys in the workshops had gloves on, and they were accessing laptops, and they didn't have their personal phones on them, and so Duo just didn't make sense. So we segregated the networks so that the workshop guys, their computers just stuck to what they were doing and did not touch the admin office whatsoever. And then we didn't need them to have Duo, because I don't care who's logging into those computers. They can't get past the perimeter, So that's it.
That makes sense, because a lot of companies are going with just PCI compliance.
Yeah.
Sign here if you see anybody messing with your computer.
Yeah.
But in the real world, that doesn't make any sense because it's just not practical.
Yeah, when we talk about compliance, everyone's the reason that letter I showed at the beginning from Columbia surgical specialists was, I think, more of a courtesy than it was a compliance. And that's incredibly kind of that company to do that, because there are a lot of companies right now that hold your personal information and that have been hacked and they're not telling you. Look at how long Sony took, right? Sony, I think, took like 8 months after everything got really Equifax. They waited almost a whole year. What was the other, not Credit One, I always get them mixed up with Credit One, Credit Financial something. They just got hacked too, and they waited a couple months till. So when it comes to compliances, we're getting to the point where there's GDPR. GDPR is over in Europe, and they have some of the very first industry standards for pushing these compliances, saying, okay, if you have customer-sensitive information on your hardware, you have due diligence to your customers to secure it and to let them know if it's been compromised. And then California just passed a law, so many acronyms in this industry. It's very similar to GDPR, and it's the same thing. Anyone who lives in the state of California that buys certain software at a certain point, the companies that sold it to them and handle the services, they have to follow this compliance to secure their data. The exact outlines for that haven't been figured out yet. They haven't said, like, you have to have a firewall, you have to have data loss protection, you have to have all these different solutions. And it shouldn't be, because again, everything is custom fit. They just know that there's a concern here. And it's good that the government's kind of stepping in and saying these things have to happen, but it hasn't been spelled out yet. And it's a really transitional phase we're hitting right now, where technology has gotten so crazy. We have 3 cameras on iPhones now, and business productivity is getting better and better, but we're leaving security behind. Yeah.
We're going to more and more cloud-based
Mhm.
software, so it sort of takes the control, obviously, out of our hands. So I'm wondering what we can do to make sure, have payroll and job,
Yeah.
and everything's in
Mhm.
the cloud on this other. So we're trusting that this other company is doing what they say they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, how they're storing your data up in their cloud, which is just someone else's computer. That's the cloud, okay? And so, yeah, you do always want to ask about the securities behind that and see what they're doing. On top of that, you want to make sure that they should have, depending on what solutions you're using, there should be some user authentication. A lot of our cloud productivity tools, we have two-factor integrated onto that. Again, you can do some of those with free tools like Google Authenticator. Facebook has their own, Google has their own. So you want to do user access confirming, and then there are separate tools that can actually, basically, it's almost like a VPN being like a private tunnel to that access. Checkpoint, another one of our vendors we work with, they have a pretty interesting solution right now, specifically for third-party cloud applications, and it's kind of they call it a capsule, and it's basically a VPN. for whether you're accessing it from your phone or your laptop or even at work. So, yeah, cloud is very insecure right now. I do a lot with the government, and we have what's called FedRAMP certification. And that's a whole level of security that you can only retain the data for a certain amount of time, has to be deleted after that, even physical security. The data centers that they're held in, there has to be a certain number of guards, 24/7, all sorts of stuff. So, yeah. Any other questions? I know I've covered a lot, yeah?
Yeah, I was wondering how you work to secure non-company provided endpoints. Because not everyone's going to issue a cell phone and a laptop. It's
Yeah.
not even convenient for a lot of ways people work. So what are some of the ways that you ensure that either these are legitimate devices, that they meet compliances for
Yeah.
patching or for versions?
Yeah, so what I mentioned earlier, BYOD, that stands for bring your own device. This is a very common term now in the cybersecurity space because it's so prevalent, right? Companies used to issue their own phones. Back when I worked at Boeing, I worked in a data center, a top secret one, that they had to drill out the cameras back when we had like little flip phones with cameras, and you'd have to turn in the phone and they'd drill it through just because they didn't want people taking pictures, right? So that was that old method. But now you can Google BYOD, and there's tons of security stuff. There's a mobile defender. There's a ton of stuff.
What you need, what's this, would need an agent?
What's that?
Would it need some kind of agent or a small agent to run as you connect? So, yeah, I guess what I'm saying, say that, like, I don't really know what Box offers right off the hand. Say, like, you're going to use Box, you're going to use
OneDrive.
Web app and OneDrive,
Oh, yeah.
et cetera. So if I go home to my home computer, what's going to stand between me and just a public internet connection to that service?
So you're asking kind of like because it's cloud-based, and you're concerned about like what the security measures are there. What can you do personally about it, right?
Yeah, or if it's even through something with corporate backend, like,
Yeah.
What kind of network compliance device, et cetera.
Yeah.
Like,
So
what did you put in between the two?
in between the two, it's difficult because when you're doing file sharing, you've already made that risk assessment of I'm going to store this stuff off-site, and hopefully those people are very nice with my data, right? So it's hard when you're doing backup and retention and things like that. There's a lot of policies in place for that. A good security measure, and we do this with all our customers, is, and this is another very simple, have backups on everything. Ransomware, if they would have had those patient files backed up, they could have quickly called and, but probably because it was so quick, and it was in the morning, who knows what their backup policy is. They probably couldn't get it in time, right? So I don't know if that really answers your question, but again, there's...
Well, it's not an easy question to answer.
Yeah.
It's like Microsoft OneDrive, I can
Yeah.
log in, it's okay for me to approve the encrypted device, I know that, but
Yeah.
if I'm just, oh shoot, hey, there's my wife, can I use your computer real quick?
Oh, to log into yours.
Drive.
Yeah, yeah.
That would go through Office, our tenant.
Mhm.
But,
At that point, that's just credentials, because if you're using another person's device, again, you're making that leap of a bad security practice, and such as using a hotel computer or something like that, right? Have you ever used a hotel computer and you saw how many people like had their Gmail just saved in the browser and you could just log in? So again, user authentication with a multi-factor authentication would eliminate that, because even if you left behind your username and password, a person would go to it and they didn't have your phone to authenticate. So
you have like a network access point, you have to go through it.
yeah.
Actually, I don't even know how efficient have you found network compliance devices to be ones that will actually, scan the system for either an AV with recent definitions, firmware, allowed versions. I mean, I've never found them like Checkpoint have. We've never found it to be very accurate. It can also scan keys in the registry to see if there's no hacks, but there's no real remediation, and that's
Remediation is different. A lot of these antiviruses now, they're about visibility. They're about bringing attention to what's in your your computer. I don't think a lot of these antiviruses will tell you get rid of it. We run into that every day. We have other tools that extract the actual malware or ransomware, things like that. Back on my chart here, we use Sentinel IPS systems. They're really good. What they do is they call it an outpost. This is beyond your firewall. And so what it's doing is it's actually checking for beacons from within the network. So we had a customer recently, antivirus found the malware, but the antivirus said, here it is, we don't know what to do with it, we can't contain it. It was a Bitcoin miner. These are when you get your computer hijacked and then it uses the processing power to crypto mine for the hacker. So we saw the beacons going out and we couldn't do anything about it. So we installed a Sentinel IPS and it was able to stop the beacons and see them and stop them on any port that it was trying to access. We're still working on extracting it because Malwarebytes hasn't removed it, Webroot hasn't removed it, Cylance hasn't removed it. There's tons of things there. Yeah. Question?
So if we're just kind of stuck, do companies like NDM offer some kind of free consultation?
Yeah, we do. So I like to do cybersecurity evaluations on all the companies that I first start with. Like to see kind of the base layer where they're at, both on the users, the infrastructure, the network, the endpoints, everything, and do a comprehensive analysis after that. And yeah, I do that for free. See ya.
What do you use to integrate the logging between various solutions? So you have 3 solutions. It's hard to have the time to review the alerting and to correlate. Is there something you like for the correlation?
Yeah, a lot of these tools integrate with each other. Cylance integrates with WatchGuard. Logarithm integrates with Carbon Black. Veeam and VMware work friendly together. Everyone has integrations, and absolutely, correlation's a huge deal. Again, it comes back to that layered security aspect. That's why we do services, is because at the end of the day, if you're a business owner or even an IT guy at one of these companies, you don't have time to do that sort of false positive removal and remediation. That's why we have the services involved with it.
What's the, do you use a central
Yeah.
source which is just dedicated to correlating Carbon Black?
Well, it doesn't do the correlation, but we do ConnectWise, which gives us our single pane of glass for seeing all of our data right there so that the human person can act it that way. Yeah. So any other last questions? I wanted to really quick mention, I've got an event coming up on September 27th at 5 p.m. at the Steam Plant rooftop. This is with the Community Security Coalition. Hosting an event there. It's to meet all the new board members. I'm one of the board members. You can meet me there. Free drinks and food, so please be there. And then, does anyone have the LinkedIn app? Or I think maybe everyone here might already have me on LinkedIn. If not, I'll meet with you afterwards. But yeah, that kind of covers everything. Yeah, search CSC on Eventbrite if you're interested in this event. And that's all I had. So thank you all so much for coming. And grab a cookie on your way out. Thanks.
Do you perform server patching as a
Yeah.
service?
Yeah, automated and manual.
What would you say your largest customer for server patching is? And what would be your largest customer for server patching? Like how many servers and OSs do you patch?